My personal favorite kind of supplemental strategy to time blocking that I feel like we don't talk about nearly enough is what I call chaos time. Now, chaos time is another time block where usually people will do it in the afternoon. So you have a time block from 30 to 60 minutes that's called chaos time. And it's just that. So when somebody calls you with their hair on fire and the world is falling down around them and you have to get something done right then and there, right that day, that's when chaos time comes into play and you actually deal with whatever those fires are then. Now, what that will do is that will protect the rest of your day.
Because it's like every time you talk to them, it's like, oh, how are you doing? It's like, oh, I'm so busy. I'm so busy. I'm so busy. It's like, are you really that busy? And I hate saying the word busy. So for me, when everyone's like, oh, how are things going? And it's like, yeah, we're stacked every day. Like I'm busy.
Yep.
I usually like to just say, oh man, we're so productive right now. Like we got so much stuff going on. It's amazing. You know, because for me, I'm always like trying to be positive and living every day like it's Friday. And so I love it. It's like when someone's like busy, it just sounds like such a negative thing. And then a lot of times the people who say that a lot to me, I'm like, I know you're not busy. We're living every day like it's Friday around here. Not a carry in the world, just ready to welcome the weekend. Well, hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Habit. I'm excited because today we're joined by Jacob Hicks. He is a sales strategist and systems thinker who's passionate about helping entrepreneurs push past their comfort zone. Don't we all need to be pushed past our comfort zone? Because there's no growth without that. He helps them master their time and build businesses that last. He's got a proven track record of turning goals into sustainable results. And Jacob brings powerful insight for small business owners ready to level up. Jacob, welcome to the Friday Habit.
Oh, Mark, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here. Love that intro.
Yeah, man. So how are things going for you?
Just going really well. Let's living it up in central Iowa, and just waiting for summer, I guess.
It's like corn territory over there.
Yeah, we got a lot of corn, a lot of cattle. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. It's humid. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've been in Iowa.
It can get pretty. It can get really, really hot, and it can get really, really cold too. So It just depends on really the day of the week. So
nice. Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, yep. So I grew up in a small town in southwest Iowa, but lived in different parts of Iowa all my life.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I mean, it's got the rolling hills. The few times I've been there, it's been beautiful, you know.
Yeah, it's...
I spent a lot of time in Orange City, Iowa. So.
Oh, really? What brought you to Orange City?
There's a college there that I was in a band and we used to play at that college. So
I love it, man. All right. That's fun. Small town Iowa.
yeah, exactly. So like when it was like late and we were hungry, it's like all there is like a Taco John, you know, like just right there.
And that closes at 12, so you want to get there quick.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's cool, man. So then, as far as growing up there and kind of developing as a business leader, entrepreneur, all those other kind of things. What was your journey like from that? When you were young, was it always you wanted to? Did you just have a knack for sales or things like that, or what was that development like?
Sales has kind of always been kind of in the back of my mind. My dad sold insurance for about 25 years when I was growing up, so it was kind of just always around. And it's kind of funny you say that because I realized, I was just thinking back through like my work history and everything. And I realized that my first sale, I actually went door to door in my hometown and sold chocolates in 8th grade. Okay. So that was my very first sale. But kind of entrepreneurship and sales has kind of always been in the blood a little bit. My first kind of true sales role was in college. And I sold suits in retail setting. Did that for about 4 or 5 years, working my way up through the company.
Nice.
It was a really great way to cut my teeth. But as anybody that's ever been in retail or like food service knows, like you can have some really great customers and you can have some really really grumpy customers too. Yeah. But it was a good way to cut my teeth. And from there I got into did real estate for a little while, and then most recently within the last few years I was an outside sales rep for a couple of companies in the optical world before launching my own business. So
okay, nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I sometimes I feel like you have people who are natural at sales, and it just comes naturally. I think for me, it was a little bit of that where I really wasn't like self-conscious about I was good at sales, and I used to
Mm.
tell friends like, "Oh, I hate sales. Like, I'm not that good at." They're like, "Are you serious? Like, you're really good at sales." And I'm like, "Really? I didn't think about it, but and I think kind of in the '90s and 2000s there was this a lot of this mentality of hard closing and like get to
Yeah.
yes and like
Yep.
always be closing and find the objections, and it was always this thing of like, oh my gosh, like I really don't want to like do this. For me, it was like I just wanted to build relationships and get to know people well, and then figure out how to just provide the best solution to them. But not have like a, well, let's get your wife on the line right now and ask her. I mean, we should. It's just like,
Yeah.
just I always hated that part of it. So, but I think with anything when it comes to sales, and I think a lot of small business owners, a lot of creatives and freelancers, and entrepreneurs, people that we talk to, they dread sales. It's like one of those things where it's like
Yep.
they just don't want to do it. But I do think that it is obviously, if you're going to be running business development or doing certain things, like you need to sharpen that skill and have a self-awareness.
Yeah.
But really it comes down, and I know you talk about this comfort zone thing, right? It's like, okay, how do we break through this comfort zone that we have of approaching people or talking about a certain thing? And so what does that look like, do you think?
So, I mean, for me, you hit the nail on the head. Like most entrepreneurs, they want, like when they start a business, you want the business to do the business, right? Like you want to be a marketer or, a freelancer or like whatever the case might be. You want to do those things. You don't want to be, somebody that's sitting down, like cold calling people or whatever the case might be, trying to drum up new business. So for me, what it really comes down to is just establishing systems that allow you to, what I kind of call sell without selling, meaning that you are, meeting somebody at a networking event on LinkedIn or whatever the case might be, getting some contact information, hitting it off, and then just establishing a strong cadence of follow-up. I think that's the biggest thing that people can miss. And I mean, in the sales world for sure, but then also just in the business world in general. I've seen stats that say that salespeople, the people that are, I think, paid to follow up on stuff,
Yeah.
it's 1 in 2 salespeople don't follow up more than once.
Wow.
And most business, 80% of business, I just saw this the other day, 80% of business is 1 in 5 or more follow-ups, meaning that we are leaving, potentially 4/5 of our business on the table. Just
Yeah,
assuming
wow,
that we're just not going to get it.
that's an interesting stat. I'm gonna make sure that I go in. I use Brevo as like my CRM, and
yeah.
I have like a pipeline and like all these other kind of things. And so typically a lead will come in through the website, or I'll meet somebody at a networking event and I'll put them in there. And then I have kind of like, okay, nurturing mode and qualifying and, all these different phases that they go through. And so a lot of times I'll email once, may email twice, and then I'll be like, all right, I'm good because you clearly don't want my service. But for there, I need to make a mental note. I gotta email like 3 or 4 more times before I move them over to the not interested.
Yeah. So, and honestly, I would do even more than that. Like this is just a personal philosophy, but personally, like if somebody like reaches out to me, they, I get their contact information or whatever, I will follow up with them until either or they die or I die or I get told no pretty aggressively.
Okay.
So just because that's where most of your business is going to live, but we just have to get past this mindset of sales is just like me calling, Mark every single day until he says, yes, I'm going to buy Jacob's stuff. That's not really what sales is. Sales is what you were talking about before. It's serving people in such a way that you are actually helping them. If you don't believe in what you're selling and believe that it can actually help people, then maybe we have to have a different discussion. So when I say follow up, I don't mean, just calling Mark every other week or whatever the cadence might be, just saying, hey, are you ready to buy now? It's following up in such a way that I'm providing value, adding credibility to myself in your eyes, and then it's providing information that you find helpful. So it doesn't have to be like, hey, do you want to buy stuff? It can be, hey, Mark, thanks. It was really great to chat at the networking event last week. I would love to grab coffee. That can be a follow-up. It can also be, hey, Mark, I haven't talked to you in a couple of months. We met at this networking event. When we were talking, you mentioned that you were struggling with, X, Y, and Z, or thinking of buying, this, that, or the other. And, I've dealt with a lot of that in my business. These are kind of my top 3 tips when people are thinking about that particular issue. That's a lot of value, and that's the kind of follow-up that people want. And if you do that on a consistent basis, I mean, any salesperson that's been in the business for more than 5 minutes has stories where they followed up with somebody sometimes over the course of years with zero response, and ended up getting a random call from this whoever it was saying, "Hey, thanks so much for reaching out. I'm ready to do business now."
Yeah, it's kind of like that top of mind is first in line when it comes to
100%.
business. And so
100%.
trying to continually, and that's why I usually too, I move people into an email list and then do like a monthly newsletter
Sure.
where it's kind of like, hey, we have a new service or whatever that is, just to kind of stay top of mind with them or remind them out here. And then if they really hate me, then they can unsubscribe to that newsletter. And then it's like, all right, like we're not doing business, and that's fine. But yeah, so I mean, so what do you think it is as far as that comfort zone? Did you kind of experience this in your own journey of kind of having some breakthroughs or whatever, or were you kind of always just the Iceman?
So I've not always been the Iceman. And it's kind of funny. Like growing up, like before I really truly got into sales selling suits, I was kind of a shy kid. But sales, either you kind of break out of that a little bit, either kind of learn how to be extroverted or
sink or swim.
You figure out something else to do. But for me, it's really just that mindset shift. It's that I'm calling Mark because I truly believe that what I have to offer him is of value and is something that could potentially help him. And I just want to see if it makes sense for us to do business together. And then like the following up piece and following up from a place of value, if you're following up from value and providing information that is relevant and interesting and actually could help those people that are reading it, you're not going to be bothering people. But if you are kind of like that, like the stereotypical like used car salesman kind of vibe where you're just bugging people, trying to get them to buy something that you don't even know if it makes sense, you're just trying to close a deal, then that's where you're going to start having issues.
Yeah. So how do you help people recognize, when they're playing it too safe in their sales efforts? Like, if they're not doing those things?
So, I mean, the first thing we always look at is like that follow-up piece that we've talked about already. It's like if you aren't following up in a consistent manner, whether it be like your newsletter, like you mentioned before, or if you're doing like, a quarterly call or a quarterly, like very personalized check-in email, something like that. If you aren't doing those things already, then again, you are leaving a lot of your business on the table. You're just saying, hey, you know what? If it's on the other side of that email, I'm probably not I don't even want the business. So that's always the first place that we look. And then establishing the cadence that makes sense. So my kind of next step always is if you do meet somebody at that networking event, do you know what your next step is? And it should be like a pretty immediate thing. It doesn't have to be like, I'm going to send them a million emails and I'm going to send a whole bunch of mail and all this stuff. It could just be, I met Mark at this great networking event. We seem to hit it off. I'm going to give him a call tomorrow and see if we can set up a coffee. But you should have those kind of things like just already in your head and just have those systems established. So, I mean, in the sales world, we do a lot of like scripting, like role playing and things, right? And the reason that we do that is because we don't want when you are in a live sales situation to be when you're practicing. Yeah. You want to practice beforehand. And the same is true of your sales systems. So you don't want to be like at a networking event meeting, this awesome guy named Mark that you think you could make sense to do business together. And then you're just at a loss. You're like, well, I don't know what to do. I guess I'll put it on my to-do list.
Or the infamous, you collect all the business cards and then they just fall into a black hole. Exactly. They slide down your seat in the car. Like you should have like I mean, for me, that's how it is. It's like I get the business cards, I enter them into my CRM, I make notes because I usually have conversations with everybody. So I'm like making notes about like, okay, they had 3 kids, they've lived in Colorado this long, like, just so that I'm always coming from a place when I'm trying to connect with them of like, I already asked you those questions. I already know those things about you. So trying to make sure all that stuff's entered in properly. And so then it's like, all right, after I get done with this networking event, I'm going to enter their information in. And then I'm going to reach out to them. Hey, it was great meeting you at this thing. And for me, one of the things I always try to do is I really try to provide, like you were saying, this free value, like looking into their situation and just offering something with no expectation of getting something in return, or thinking, if I give them this information, they're going to want to work with me. Like I really try to kind of keep it as pure, if you will, as possible, as far as I generally want to get to know more people and build relationships authentically.
Yes.
And if I don't think I have something that could value them, or maybe there's another relationship that I should just try to connect them with in order to like move them, onto somebody else, because I'm like, hey, I don't think I can help you right now, but I know someone else who's doing X, Y, and Z. You should contact them, because it's just that reciprocity where of like at some point they might be like, you know what, Mark's never asked anything of me. He's never tried to hard close me or whatever. And so maybe even if I don't get their business, the thing that's happened to me a lot more recently this year is like people are just referring me. Like I'm not doing business with this one guy, but this one guy's like referred me like 3 or 4 different people because I just had a good relationship with him. And I was kind, and I wasn't trying to like pressure him into doing something with us. And so he just keeps referring us to other people. And so that's been great.
I love that, man. And I said, that's a ton of gold. Like the notes piece, I love. Like if you have a CRM and you aren't like putting your contacts in there and then you're not adding notes, I mean, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot a little bit.
Yeah.
One of my favorite kind of like little subtle tips is I like trying to figure out when somebody's birthday is and then figure out like what their favorite flavor of like ice cream or donut or whatever might be, and then get them that for their birthday. Nice. Get them a little bit, just because and that shows like I'm authentic and I want to have a strong relationship with them. The piece about, the referral, I love that, because I think of those people as allies, right? Because you said like you meet some people, you really hit it off, and you're just like, it really doesn't make sense. Like we probably won't do business together just because you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing. It's just not a jiving thing.
Right.
But like those people can still be, hugely influential in your business because you are providing value still and have an authentic relationship where they are, like you said, referring a ton of people to you over and over and over again because they know who you are and how you're going to treat the people they send you.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So another thing we wanted to kind of chat about, I got time management, systems, and then, some other stuff here, but mastering time management, that is a big thing.
Yes.
Yeah. This is the one thing I constantly hear from people too. It's like, oh, I'm so busy, or there's not enough hours in the day. I'm like, listen, Elon Musk is like running freaking
14 companies.
14 companies. He's going to Mars, like all this stuff. I'm like, he has the same amount of 24 hours as everybody else in this world. And so I feel like this is a constant thing with salespeople and entrepreneurs, right? They're always battling the clock. And so it's like, how do we manage our time and our priorities?
So for me, like, I guess like the simplest answer I can give you is it all comes down to intentionality. So, and for me personally, and I've written quite a bit about this on my blog and everywhere else, but time blocking, I'm a huge fan of time blocking, so I do it, every day. Now, when I say time blocking, some folks think of that, particularly in the sales world, and they think, okay, from 9 to 12, I'm working. So 9 to 12 is my working time block. And then from 12 to 1, I'm on lunch. That's my lunch time block. And then I come back from 1 to 5, and that's my afternoon working time block.
Right.
You got to be a lot more specific than that. So when I say, yes. So when I say time blocking, I'm talking about like specific tasks with specific time. So if you let's say you are like doing some cold calling in the sales world, right? Or prospecting or whatever. You have your call sheet, and let's say it's probably going to take you roughly an hour. And you do that from 9 to 10. So from 9 to 10, you have a time block in your calendar that says from 9 to 10, I am cold calling. And then you have like whatever your notes are, whatever you want to kind of put in there. And then once 10 o'clock hits, then you say, okay, I got my calling done. And now I'm going to respond to emails or get back to whatever. So from 10 to 11, that's your 10 to 11 time block. So get really, really granular on all of those things. Now, the important thing to note is, I believe I think it's Parkinson's law, if I remember right. It's where a task will take the time that you give it. Meaning that if you're cold calling, and let's say you time block an hour, but it could really take you like half an hour, because again, we know most cold calling is smiling, dialing, leaving messages, a lot of it, right? So let's say it would normally take you half an hour, but you schedule an hour, it will most likely take that hour. So really kind of start figuring out, okay, this really takes me, I thought it was going to take me an hour, it really takes me like 45 minutes. So you start to adjust, start to iterate a little bit, and start working with your time blocks to see how it works. Now, my personal favorite kind of supplemental strategy to time blocking that I feel like we don't talk about nearly enough is what I call chaos time. Now, chaos time is another time block where usually people will do it in the afternoon. So you have a time block from 30 to 60 minutes that's called chaos time. And it's just that. So when somebody calls you with their hair on fire and the world is falling down around them and you have to get something done right then and there, right that day, that's when chaos time comes into play, and you actually deal with whatever those fires are then. Now, what that will do is that will protect the rest of your day.
Right.
So as you're cold calling or whatever, and Mrs. Jones calls and says, "Hey, my hair's on fire again. I need you to fix it." Then you're like, "Okay, I'm going to get that done this afternoon for you, Mrs. Jones. Don't worry about it." And then the rest of your day is not all messed up because you're trying to deal with these issues.
Right, because you already have it time blocked.
Exactly. Now, one other important note when it comes to chaos time that's been hugely successful for me and my clients is, so I schedule chaos time every single day. Before, let's say like a week or two at a time, maybe once a quarter or every month or whatever makes sense for you. Take about a week or two and actually write down all the things that come up during chaos time. And realize that, let's say again, like with my previous example, let's say Mrs. Jones is calling you 2-3 times a week with some other emergency that has to get taken care of. Now, instead of always allocating chaos time to her needs, you can actually time block for Mrs. Jones, saying, "Hey, from 10 to 10:30, this is my Mrs. Jones time block. She's probably going to call me sometime today or tomorrow or the next day, and there's going to be something I'm going to have to deal with." Now, let's say she doesn't call you. She's on vacation. She doesn't call you all that week. That's both her time block and the chaos time becomes time that you can allocate in a different way if you need to.
Yeah. So do you think it's important, because I've heard of people doing this too, when you're kind of first starting out with this whole time blocking system, really going through maybe 2-3 days, maybe even a week, and you just kind of mark down your times, like, hey, I got to the office at 9:00, and then kind of micro organizing everything you've done throughout the day. So I went to the bathroom and like I jacked around for for however long. I went to the down to the vending machine and I looked in there for 10 minutes. Because I feel like sometimes you kind of your day can get away from you and you can lose a lot of that time. And then you're like, man, I was busy, but I don't know what I did today.
Yeah. So essentially, the way that I think of what you're talking about, I call it an audit, and I recommend people do it if you're time blocking consistently. Doing it, I mean, depending on what you're doing, particularly like right away, right when you first start kind of messing with the time blocking strategy, just to see where your time is really going, because especially early on in the entrepreneurial thing, like when you're playing the entrepreneurial game, like when you first start, you have probably more time than money. So your time is your main resource. You need to really know where you're spending it and making sure that you're actually spending it on things that are hopefully driving, people into your pipeline, but then ultimately dollars to the bottom line. And I recommend once people are doing this more consistently, do it, like I said, once a quarter or so, an audit, and just see, okay, I did time block for an hour for cold calling, but then I, hung out with John at the water cooler for 15 minutes. And then, I was, messing on my phone for another 15 minutes. So just making sure that the appointments that you're making with yourself, you're actually honoring them.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. That makes sense. And again, I feel like it's just I had a friend who used to always say busy is a form of laziness.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it's like every time you talk to him, it's like, oh, how are you doing? It's like, oh, I'm so busy. I'm so busy. I'm so busy. It's like, are you really that busy? And I hate saying the word busy. So for me, when everyone's like, oh, how are things going? And it's like, yeah, we're stacked every day. Like I'm busy.
Yep.
I usually like to just say, oh man, we're so productive right now. Like we got so much stuff going on. It's amazing. Because for me, I'm always like trying to be positive and living every day like it's Friday. And so I
love it.
It's like when someone's like busy, it just sounds like such a negative thing. And then a lot of times the people who say that a lot to me, I'm like, I know you're not busy.
So I love what you're saying, because people talk about it all the time. Like I'm super busy, and it's so easy to fill your time, but are you actually getting things done? That's really the kind of the critical thing. Yeah. There's a really, really great book that I read several years ago called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. And they talk about like getting caught up in the whirlwind, like that's some of this chaos time stuff. But then they also talk about like your wildly important goals. So like setting the goals that are like actually meaningful and actually doing like helping you to get things done the way you need to, and making sure that you are accomplishing at least one sort of task or something that will drive you towards those goals every single day. And you'll get to where you're going. Right.
Yeah. So what is, like, when you coach somebody through this, like who's constantly busy and they're not really that productive, like what are some of the things that you're kind of helping them see?
So when I'm coaching somebody, typically the way that I like to coach is we'll have like our weekly or bi-weekly session. And then we have what I call, for lack of a better word, homework in between. So if I'm coaching a salesperson that says, hey, I'm a newer salesperson, or I'm trying to get to this next level, and I really think that, cold calling or prospecting in different ways will help me to get there. I said, okay, great. So, accountability is going to be a big piece of this. So if you tell me as a salesperson, okay, I have this huge list that I got off of LinkedIn, or I'm going to message all these people on LinkedIn or on the phone or whatever, I'm going to message, 50 a day, whatever it is. And we will actually set up homework saying, okay, so over the next week, over the next, 5 working days, then you are going to message, 250 people. Is that what you want to do? And they will say, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. I'm super excited about it. It's like, okay, great. Then the next time we meet, we'll say, okay, so we set a goal of hitting 250 contacts or outreaches between, last session and this session. So did we do it? And they'll say, well, I got some things put in the way, and I don't know. It's that's okay. Life happens, right? We get that. But if you're telling me that this prospecting plan is really what you want to drive towards, and you've seen the results from other people, so you believe that that it'll work. But you're just telling me you're not getting things done. So sometimes it can be just a commitment to the process. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it can be this time management piece, like we were talking about before. It's hey, okay, are we going to set aside 2 hours every day to make sure we're hitting all of our contacts or whatever? And sometimes it can be just some mindset pieces where you're some salespeople love cold calling. That's where they live. They're just hungry for it. And some salespeople they get the shakes and get nervous and stuff. Yeah. So starting to work through some of those things can really help. So just figuring out where the roadblocks is a huge piece of it.
Yeah, totally. And again, it's I think setting those goals is important, and then revisiting those goals. And even having the accountability, right, of a coach or somebody else on your sales team that's kind of holding you accountable. Because, again, we all have good intentions, but sometimes, we get in our own way and we can be our own worst enemies.
Yeah.
So having that outside voice is always, helpful. So systems, I want to talk a little bit about systems. Sure. Why do you think so many small businesses struggle with building sustainable systems? Because I feel like they're one of those things where really systems are what we need in order to actually grow and be profitable and all these other kind of things,
yep.
And get ourselves, we talk about here on the Friday Habit, right? Spend less time working in your business and more time working on your business.
I love it. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, I think, there's a few kind of things that typically come up when we're talking about the entrepreneurial side of things. So my favorite quote around systems, and I'm sure you've heard it a million times, is from James Clear. He says, we don't rise to our goals, we fall to our systems, meaning that whatever we can do sustainably and consistently is really where we are headed. Yeah. So if your goals exceed the systems you've built, then, something else has to give in order to get to where you want to go.
I love that, man. That's really powerful. And I even think about, so the Friday Habit, we're in our 5th year.
Love it, man. Congrats.
Of the show. And one of the big things that has helped us, sustain over these years is we have systems, around when we record, when stuff gets released, around how we intake, new guests. And it all kind of runs itself. So over the past 5 years, there's just minimal touch that I have to do to kind of keep things moving forward. And then I get to hang out with cool guys like you and talk every week, with cool people. And so, but I think that it would have fallen apart. And, at Brand Viva, we do a lot of podcast production, and we work with, people to create content on a consistent basis. And one of the biggest things, especially in the podcasting world, is called pod fade, where you get excited about, creating something and doing this thing. And then something pops up and you get busy and you have to put the podcast on the back burner. And because you don't have those systems in place, it all starts to crumble and fall apart.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's the pod fade, that as a concept is true kind of regardless of what we're talking about.
Yeah, well, going to the gym, eating healthy, whatever it is,
reading books, whatever it is. Exactly. So really we're kind of talking about two different things. So, we talked about goals a little bit before, but always what I'm kind of digging into is why. So let's say you started a business, whatever it is, you're selling X, Y, and Z, and you're like, okay, I'm going to get more aggressive this year. I want to grow the business a lot, and I'm going to sell, this amount. It's going to be double whatever I sold the last 2 years, whatever it is, right? And saying those things is great. There's nothing wrong with those kinds of goals, but you have to understand why, and you have to really tie it back to who you are. And when I say tie it back to who you are, I mean, okay, let's say you do that. Let's say you hit and you double your sales from last year to this year, right? Fantastic. That's an incredible goal. But what would that do for you? What would that really look like? like what kind of life would you be leading if you did that? Would that mean that you were working, 20 hours a day? Like, would that mean that you're at the point where, hey, maybe you can take a step back a little bit and hire like a CEO? Or like does that do a ton of great things for like your kids, your wife, your family, or whatever? Like really paint me the picture. Like help me understand like why that's important to you and why you want to do it. And then the second piece is the systems, right? So when it comes to sales systems, I always start people with two generally, particularly on the follow-up side. So the two that I always start, and there's kind of a third too that we can talk about. We kind of mentioned earlier, but the two that I start with is what I call a 10 by 10. Meaning that you meet somebody at a networking event, like we mentioned before. So, once a week for the next 10 weeks, you're going to follow up with them in some form or fashion until you get a contact or a sit down or whatever the case might be. Just trying to warm up the prospect, right? The second one that I recommend people at least start with and start building their own system version of this is I'm a big fan of Gary Keller from Keller Williams. He was in real estate for a long time.
Yeah, one thing.
Yeah, the one thing, exactly. And he recommends, he does what's called the 36 touch, meaning that and this is a long-term drip campaign, where the 10 by 10 would feed into the 36 touch, but over 12 months, you will in some form or fashion contact somebody 36 times. Now, most people hear that and they start to panic a little bit, and they're like, I'm going to call this guy 36 times? What are you talking about? No, so usually, and again, you kind of build it out the way that'll work for you.
Yeah.
But usually you will contact somebody via phone, like call them once a quarter. So just 4 times a year. And the rest, majority of it is going to be like bi-weekly or weekly emails of like your newsletter or whatever the case might be. And then if you get some good contact information like anniversaries, holidays, birthdays, those kind of things, to make sure to reach out to them on those kind of days too. But those are the systems. That way, like, okay, I met Mark at this networking event. I'm establishing a 10 by 10 or maybe an 8 by 8 works better for me. So, tomorrow I'm going to call him, see if I can set up a coffee. Tomorrow I call you, you're busy, you don't get back to me, whatever. I say, okay, so, in a week from tomorrow, I'm going to touch base with him again. Maybe I'm going to shoot him a text, and you just keep going that way. So you always, again, know what the next steps are. And you mentioned it before, but a CRM I think is, absolutely a critical tool. Yeah. A lot of entrepreneurs think, okay, well, I got a spreadsheet.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, it's better to have that than nothing, but it's almost nothing really.
Yeah, exactly. Or a whiteboard or, piece of paper in front of you, you're starting to write stuff down.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it totally gets, I struggled, I think, for a while for that. I would say it's been about a year and a half or so that I've really implemented a CRM, and really it's been great because one is, I think in the past there's probably so many opportunities I missed out on because I didn't have proper notes or I didn't have like information of when I followed up with him last, or you think it. It's funny because even now, like with the system we have, and I'm a huge fan of Brevo. If you haven't checked it out, I'll put show notes in the description about Brevo. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but one thing I love about it is that it's kind of all in one. So the email marketing is in there. Communication is, you can connect your email to it. And then, because one of the things I love about that is that in the pipeline where you have, your different phases of your sale, I can go in there and I can see exactly like the conversation, like I'm just emailing them, but it's sucking all that back in. And then I can see like, oh, I followed up 2 weeks ago, and it'll give me a time of like the last time there was some sort of, it's been 3 weeks or a month or whatever since I communicated with them last. But it's funny because without that tool, in your brain, you try to take some mental notes about like, oh yeah, I think I just reached out to him. It's like, oh no, that was like 2 months ago that I reached out to him. And so, yeah, I agree. Having a good CRM, a good, place to capture those notes and all that information is just priceless.
Yeah, 100%. I kind of think of it, the way I've recommended it to clients, it's like your second brain, because you don't want like mental capacity to be taken up because you're trying to remember that you talked to John 2 days ago and you just shot the breeze or whatever, nothing really came of it. You don't want to try to remember that kind of stuff. You want to be able to get that out of your mind so that you can focus on, working on your business, like you said before. That's really, really critical.
Yeah. So what is, so would you say the CRM is like a good foundational like system piece is like having some sort of, do you have other CRMs that you like, or there's a ton out there. There's a million of them, like it's a bunch anymore. Yeah.
I think a good place to kind of start, and I don't know if I would call this like a true CRM, But I mean, a MailChimp is kind of something inexpensive that has like some CRM features, I would say, where you can, have like a pop-up on your website that somebody signs up for whatever, then it immediately gets, funneled into some of those things. Then you can say, okay, they're going to get, these 5 emails over the course of the next 4 or 5 days. And like that's automatically done for you, or like your newsletter and those kind of things.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of folks have really good experience with HubSpot. I think that's, a nice staple too around the industry. But really what I recommend to folks, because there are just so many out there anymore, is find the one that you will use. And the best way I have found to help folks do that is to Google, like take like whatever your industry is, like accounting, and then just do CRM, like accounting CRM, and just see what comes up and start to do some research and see what is something that you will do sustainably. Because that's really the key part here. You might have the best CRM in the world, but if you're not using it consistently, then it's a moot point.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and there's some really good stuff out there. I tested out one last year. It's called Less Annoying CRM. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one.
I haven't.
Yeah,
check it out though.
Yeah, you should. It's very basic, but I think for a lot of people who just need like a very basic type CRM, it's really good, and it's super cheap too. I think it's like less than $9 a month or something like that.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So that's cool, man. So I guess, some of the other things I was just curious about is, what are some of the things that you do kind of like to practice? Cause you're kind of growing your own business and doing your thing here. So, what are you kind of practicing? What kind of habits and stuff, look like for you on a weekly basis?
So for me, I said time blocking. I mean, nobody's going to be surprised by that. I like to time block a lot. I kind of live and breathe by my calendar. And that's true, like personally and professionally. I really want to know where I'm at, what I'm doing, so I don't forget
Do you have
anything.
kids? You married?
Not that I know of. So
maybe some in the Thailand somewhere.
Right? Yeah, I'll let you know. Like that's kind of a big piece of it for me, just like day to day, particularly during like the working week, is like I'm just guilty of this as anybody else, but like my phone can kind of become a bad habit for me, where I just get sucked into some stupid series of videos that really aren't doing anything for me, and before I know it, it's 4 hours later.
Yeah.
So what I really like doing is I've got a couple of apps that I'm not affiliated with these guys at all. Well, one is like just the basic, it's the shortcut app on your iPhone.
Okay.
Where I read a study that if your phone is in grayscale, like black and white, then everything on there, whatever app it is 30% less interesting to you.
Interesting.
So you can set up your shortcut app to, like, let's say from like 8 to 5 or whatever it is, your phone will be in grayscale and it can switch back automatically. So that's been really great.
Okay, nice.
And then there's other apps out there that will block like your social medias and like that kind of stuff that can suck you in sometimes from like a certain period of time and certain times of the day. So that's been really nice too.
Have you heard of Pomodoro at all?
Yeah. I mess with that.
Yeah, I that's something that I've used throughout the years too, where if you have ADD, you have a hard time focusing or whatever, like setting 25 minutes of focus time and then 10-minute break. And, you can install apps on your computer where it'll be like a little timer that's like 25 minutes.
Yep,
and now like, okay, for 25 minutes, I'm just going to focus on getting through my emails and not be distracted by anything else. And then when the timer goes off, you can like switch to something else or take a 5-minute break and then do another 25-minute sprint. And I think that can be kind of helpful for those creative types.
Yeah. Yep. So I've definitely used that too over the years, and that's really, really fantastic. But the last thing I do, just to kind of help keep me focused is, like a lot of folks, I like to listen to a little bit of white noise when I'm trying to fall asleep. It just helps me, get tucked into bed, I guess.
A fan on, a little fan blowing air.
But what I've done is I will take my phone and I will actually plug it in, like in my living room, and that's where my alarm is. So that if I'm waking up, at 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is, I have to actually get up out of bed to turn my alarm off. And then, I'm up, so I might as well start my day. So, those are a few tips, but I think the really important thing that anybody listening, if you want to try some of this, I love it. Fantastic. Definitely do that. But my kind of key with all of this is to always be experimenting. That's kind of one of my favorite strategies. And don't say, hey, I heard this guy, Jacob, on a podcast. He's talking about time blocking. I really want to try that. Absolutely try it, but figure out what works for you. So some folks, like for me, I like to do it for everything. I do it for, hey, from, 6 to 7 or 8 or whatever, that's my dinner time. So I'm going to have some dinner and hang out with my dog or whatever. Some people don't like to be as neurotic as I am, but just find the things that work for you and then just keep doing those and find better ways to do them.
Totally. Yeah. One of the things that was really successful for me, and I think I got this from James Clear from the Atomic Habits book, was going to the gym. It's like when the alarm goes off at 5:30 or 6 a.m., I'm like, I don't want to go to the gym. And, because you can't think straight. You can't think clearly. Yeah. And so what I would do was I'd start packing my bag for the gym the night before, and I'd get everything laid out, and I'd sleep in my clothes. I was sweats and a T-shirt anyway. So it's like I would just sleep in my gym clothes, or I do that. Still. And so then when my alarm goes off, at 6 a.m., I'm like, all right, I'm already dressed. My bag's over by the door. All right, let's just go, and then I, even put my creatine in a thing. So I don't have to use my brain at all. It's just like roll out of bed, slip on your shoes. And then, halfway, by the time you get to the gym, you're like, oh, okay, I'm glad I'm here,
I love that because, you're talking about eliminating all the friction.
Yeah.
As much friction as you can. Same is true in sales. Eliminate the friction, make it easy for people. I think it's really, really critical. And that's why I like the CRM piece, like find the things that you will actually do and you will do consistently. That's really, really key. Across, regardless of the industry or whatever we're talking about.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, totally. What, if people wanted to kind of connect with you or, kind of learn more, follow you, what's the best place to kind of connect?
So the best place to find me is on my website. That's jacobhickscoach.com. I also have my own podcast called Purpose Driven Progress. So that's really great to find me. And if you're looking for some tools and tips, I've got a growth hub on my website. There's a lot of good tools in there for you.
Awesome. What do you think as far as, if we try to leave everybody with a good, something they can start next week, Monday morning, kind of to get things kicked off on the right foot, what is the one thing you would tell somebody to start doing?
Honestly, for me, if they had to pick one thing to do today, I would start doing some chaos time. Find 30 to 60 minutes in your daily calendar that you can dedicate to all the crazy stuff that comes up during the day so you can protect the rest of your day and actually move things towards the goals you want to achieve.
Awesome. I love it. Well, hey, thanks so much for hanging out with us on the show today and imparting some great wisdom as far as sales and systems and motivations. And thank you for listening to The Friday Habit. If you go to thefridayhabit.com, you can find show notes for this episode. There you can also find links to our websites and ways to get in touch. And at the bottom of the page, you can download our guide to the Friday Habit system. That's going to show you how to set aside one full day each week dedicated to working on your business instead of always in your business. Hit us up at hello@thefridayhabit.com. And until next time, remember, live every day like it's Friday.